As I read the message on my phone, my heart came to a sudden halt. It was from Dallas, bluntly stating, "I want a divorce." After 17 years of marriage, this was how he chose to break the news. Overwhelmed with shock and anger, I marched into the living room, my hands trembling uncontrollably. "What is this, Dallas?" I demanded, my voice shaking as he nonchalantly looked up from his laptop. "It's exactly what you read, Sienna. I want a divorce," he replied coolly, his face devoid of emotion. "Why now, Dallas?" After all this time? My voice cracked, revealing the storm of emotions I struggled to contain. Dallas exhaled heavily, annoyed by our conversation. "I'm in love with Blakely, my coworker. We want to start a new life together," he confessed, as if he were discussing something trivial. The room seemed to spin as he mentioned Blakely, the young, attractive blonde who was always by his side at work functions. "How long?" I barely managed to ask. 7 months. "And she's moving in soon. You'll need to pack your things and leave," he stated coldly. Anger surged through me. "This is my home too, Dallas. You can't just force me out." He stood up, his height imposing over me. "I can and I will, Sienna. It's happening, whether you like it or not." Tears welled up in my eyes as the realization hit me the man I had loved, the father of our children, had reduced our life to a cruel betrayal. "What about Amaya and Ruth? Do you even care how this affects them?" I challenged. "They're adults. They'll understand," he replied tersely, his jaw clenched. "Understand that their father is a heartless cheater? That he'd discard their family for a fling?" I retorted bitterly. "Enough, Sienna," Dallas snapped, pounding his fist on the table. "I've decided. You need to be out by the end of the week." As I stared at him, my heart broke into countless pieces. "You'll regret this, Dallas. I promise you that," I said, my voice filled with resolve. I turned sharply and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. As I got into my car, uncontrollable sobs shook me. How could he do this to us? To our family? I drove without direction, tormented by a whirlwind of questions and fears. Where would I go? What would I tell our daughters? How would I bear the humiliation? Eventually, as dusk painted the sky, I found myself outside Molly's house. She gasped in shock at my tear-streaked face. "Val, what happened?" I fell into her arms, the floodgates opening as I recounted everything. "Dallas is leaving me for his coworker. He's kicking me out." Molly embraced me tightly, her voice fierce. "That bastard. I always knew he wasn't trustworthy. But don't worry, Val. We'll face this together. He won't get away with this." In the safety of my best friend's embrace, I felt a surge of determination. I wasn't going to let Dallas dismiss me so easily. He'd underestimated my resolve. This was far from over. It was just the beginning. When I walked into the kitchen, my daughters Amaya and Ruth were engrossed in their phones, barely noticing my entrance. Their expressions were neutral, almost detached. "Girls, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaking just a bit. Amaya looked up, one eyebrow arched. "Is this about Dad's new girlfriend?" The question hit me hard, like a physical blow. "You know about Blakely?" I managed to ask. Ruth rolled her eyes. "Of course, we know, Mom. We're not oblivious. Dad's been close with her for months now. And you're okay with this?" I asked, stunned by their casual acceptance. Amaya shrugged. "Why wouldn't we be? Dad seems happy and Blakely's nice. Besides, Mom, you haven't been around much anyway." Her words stung deeply. "What do you mean by that? You're always working," Ruth chimed in, her tone sharp. "You're never here for us. Dad's the one who's been there, taking us to school, helping with homework. You're too busy with your clients." I was dumbfounded, hearing my own children seemingly turn against me. "I work hard to provide for us," I countered, my voice rising in defense. "Everything I do for you girls." Amaya scoffed. "Yeah, right. You just can't stand seeing Dad happy with someone else. You're selfish, Mom. You always have been. Tears welled up in my eyes. How can you say that? I love you both more than anything. If you really loved us, you'd want us to be happy, Ruth said coldly. And we're happy with Dad and Blakely. We don't need you. It felt like my heart was being torn from my chest. My own daughters, siding with their cheating father and his mistress. Dallas put you up to this, didn't he? I said, a sudden realization dawning on me. He's been poisoning you against me. Amaya stood, her face twisted with anger. No one put us up to anything. We're old enough to make our own decisions, and we've decided. We want to live with Dad and Blakely. You're not welcome here anymore. Reeling from their words, I stumbled backward, tears blurring my vision. You don't mean that. Ruth stood beside her sister, arms crossed. We do. Get out, Mom. And don't come back. Heartbroken, I fled the house. Outside, I collapsed onto the front lawn, sobbing uncontrollably. How could everything fall apart so quickly? My husband, my daughters, my entire life gone in the blink of an eye. As I lay there, consumed by grief and betrayal, a small spark of anger began to grow within me. Dallas had orchestrated this, turning my children against me for his selfish gain, with Blakely aiding him, cozying up to my daughters while tearing our family apart. I picked myself up, wiping the tears away. I wouldn't let them defeat me. I would fight for what was mine. Pulling out my phone, I dialed the number of the best divorce attorney in town. Hello, this is Sienna, I said, my voice steady and determined. I need your help. My husband has cheated on me, and he's turned my daughters against me. After hanging up the phone, I felt a rush of determination. I was resolved to emerge from this ordeal stronger than ever. Dallas and Blakely would rue the day they decided to cross paths with me. Sitting in my attorney's office, my hands were clenched tightly as he perused the documents I had gathered: bank statements, credit card bills, and receipts, all pointing to Dallas's deceit. Well, Mrs. Thompson, he began, peering over his glasses at the papers strewn before him. It seems your husband has been quite active financially. I nodded, my jaw set firm. He's been diverting funds from our joint account for months. I only realized when I started digging deeper. Jalen, my attorney, leaned back in his chair thoughtfully. And what do you suspect he's been squandering this money on? A bitter chuckle escaped me. His escapades with Blakely, no doubt. Fancy dinners, lavish gifts, weekend retreats. He's been enjoying life, while I've been slaving away to keep our family afloat. Jalen's expression darkened. And what about the assets you both share? Your home, investments? I swallowed, recalling a snippet of conversation I'd overheard between Dallas and Blakely. He plans to funnel all that we've built into a new business venture with her. He intends to leave me with nothing. Jalen's eyes narrowed with resolve. Not on my watch. We'll ensure you receive every penny you're entitled to, Mrs. Thompson. My heart swelled with gratitude for this man, seemingly the sole ally I had. Thank you, Jalen. I don't know what I'd do without you. He smiled, though it carried a steely resolve. Thank me when we've completely taken your husband to task. For now, let's talk strategy. For the next hour, we delved into the evidence I had compiled, meticulously crafting a case against Dallas. Jalen was confident we could expose not only Dallas's infidelity, but also his financial misconduct. He assured me Dallas would pay dearly for his actions, in multiple ways. Leaving the office, I felt a powerful sense of purpose. I was not going to let Dallas break me. I would fight back with all my might. My phone vibrated with a message from Molly. How'd it go with the lawyer? I quickly responded, better than I could have hoped. We're going to make Dallas regret the day he ever met Blakely. Her reply was swift and supportive. That's my girl. I'm so proud of you, Val. You're a fighter. A smile crossed my face, warmed by the unwavering support of my best friend. Molly had been my rock throughout this turmoil, her steadfastness a constant comfort. As I slid into my car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red and my skin pale from recent tears, but a new fire burned in my gaze, a fierce determination to see this through, no matter the cost. I thought of Amaya and Ruth, my dear daughters, swayed so easily by their father's influence, and my resolve only strengthened. This fight was not just for me, but also for the integrity of our family. Dallas's deceit wouldn't go unnoticed. I was determined to reveal the truth to our daughters, to show them what kind of man their father really was. And Blakely, that scheming intruder, thought she could waltz into my life and take everything from me, my husband, my family, my whole world. But she was gravely mistaken. I was ready to expose her for the manipulative homewrecker she truly was. As I drove out of the parking lot, a wave of calm settled over me. Ahead lay a difficult journey, but my resolve was firm. Dallas and Blakely had no idea the strength they were up against. I was Sienna Thompson, unbreakable and determined. In the quiet of Jalen's office, my heart raced with anticipation. He slid a folder across the desk with a victorious twinkle in his eye. "We've got him, Sienna," he proclaimed. Trembling slightly, I opened the folder and was met with irrefutable evidence. Intimate photos of Dallas and Blakely, receipts for extravagant gifts and hotel stays, bank statements showing hefty transfers to Blakely's account. It was all meticulously documented. "He can't escape this," Jalen leaned back, satisfaction in his voice. "We've got him dead to rights." A rush of relief surged through me, quickly followed by a fierce anger. "I want him to pay, Jalen, for everything he's done to me and our girls." Jalen nodded, his face grave. "He will, Sienna. I promise you that." My phone buzzed suddenly, cutting through the moment. It was Molly. Apologizing to Jalen, I stepped outside to take the call. "Val, have you seen the posts on Facebook?" Molly's voice was tight with anger. "What posts?" My heart sank. "Dallas is spreading lies about you, claiming you were unfaithful, that you're an unfit mother. It's all over social media." I felt a punch to the gut. "That bastard," I whispered, my voice quivering. "He's trying to turn everyone against me." "Don't worry, Val," Molly assured me fiercely. "I've been setting the record straight. I'm posting about what a lying, cheating scumbag he is, and I've got the receipts to prove it." A smile broke through my worry. Molly was truly defending my honor. "You're the best friend anyone could ask for. You know that?" "Damn right I am," she replied, and I could almost see her grinning through the phone. I quickly filled her in on the damning evidence Jalen had compiled, my anger reigniting with each detail shared. "He's not going to get away with this, Soph. I won't let him." "Damn straight," she echoed. "You're a fighter, Val. You've got this." I hung up, my determination renewed. Dallas could spread whatever lies he wanted. I had the truth on my side. I walked back into Jalen's office, my posture straight and my resolve clear. "Let's do this," I declared, my voice steady. "I'm ready to file for divorce." Jalen smiled, a spark of admiration in his eyes. "I'll have the papers drawn up immediately." Dallas wouldn't know what hit him. As I left the office, a surge of anticipation coursed through me. The path ahead promised challenges, but I was more than ready to confront them. Dallas had underestimated me, and I was determined to prove him wrong. Driving to Molly's place, my mind was buzzing with strategies and plans. Before I could even knock, Molly swung the door open and pulled me into a tight embrace. "We're going to make him pay, Val," she whispered fiercely into my shoulder, "for everything he's done to you." Returning her hug, I felt overwhelmed with appreciation for her unwavering support. "I couldn't face this without you, Soph. You know that, right?" She stepped back, tears glistening in her eyes. "That's what best friends are for, babe. Now, let's get to work. We've got a lying, cheating jerk to bring down." As we sat at her kitchen table, reviewing the evidence and planning our next moves, a calming assurance took hold of me. Armed with the truth, the support of the law, and my steadfast friend Dallas stood no chance against me. Fueled by determination, I stormed into the house with the divorce papers gripped firmly in my hand. Dallas was lounging on the couch, an arm nonchalantly around Blakely's shoulders. They both looked up, their faces a mix of surprise and annoyance. "What the hell are you doing here, Sienna?" Dallas stood, his tone confrontational. "I thought I made it clear you weren't welcome anymore." With a fiery glance, I flung the papers at his feet. "I'm here to serve you with divorce papers. You lying, cheating scoundrel." Blakely's face drained of color. "Divorce papers? Dallas, what's going on?" I laughed bitterly. "Oh, he hasn't told you. Your precious Dallas has been funneling money from our joint account to support your little escapade. And that's just the beginning." Dallas's face contorted with anger. "You have no proof of that. It's just your word against mine." My smile was cold and triumphant. "Actually, I have plenty of proof. Bank statements, credit card receipts, photos of you two together, my lawyer has it all." At that moment, Amaya and Ruth walked in, their expressions a mix of confusion and concern. "Mom, what's going on?" Ruth asked, her voice shaky. Turning to face them, my heart ached at their bewildered looks. "Your father has been deceiving us, girls. He's been unfaithful with Blakely and has been stealing from our family to fund it." Amaya's expression hardened. "That's not true. Dad would never do that." I shook my head, tears welling up. "I'm sorry, my loves, but it is true. He's been manipulating you, turning you against me." Dallas stepped forward, fury etched across his face. "Don't listen to her, girls. She's just trying to turn you against me. She's the one who's been neglecting this family, not me." I laughed, the sound tinged with bitterness. "Neglecting? I've been working tirelessly to provide for this family while you've been playing house with your girlfriend." Blakely stood, her face flushed with indignation. "Don't talk to him like that. Dallas loves me, and he loves you girls. You're just a bitter, jealous woman who can't stand to see him happy." I turned to her, my eyes blazing. "You shut your mouth, you little home wrecker. You think you can just waltz in here and take my husband, my family? Think again. I'm not going down without a fight," I declared, my resolve as firm as ever. Dallas stepped forward, a sneer contorting his features. "You're pathetic, Sienna. You really think you can win against me? I've got the girls on my side, and I've got Blakely. What do you have?" I smiled, the expression chilling and resolute. "I have the law on my side, Dallas. And I have the truth. You can try to manipulate and lie all you want, but in the end, the truth will prevail, and you'll be left with nothing." Turning to my daughters, my heart ached at the sight of their confused and pained expressions. "I love you both more than anything in the world, and I know this is difficult, but your father is not the man you think he is. He's a liar and a cheat, and he doesn't deserve your loyalty." Amaya's face crumpled, tears streaming down her face. I don't know what to believe anymore. I reached out, enveloping her in a hug. "Believe in yourself, sweetheart. Trust what you know is right, and remember, I will always, always be here for you, no matter what." Ruth stepped forward, her expression resolute. "I believe you, Mom. I'm sorry I ever doubted you." I hugged her tightly, filled with love and pride. "It's okay, baby. We're going to get through this together." I turned back to Dallas and Blakely, my gaze steely. "I'm filing for divorce, Dallas, and I'm going to make sure you pay for everything you've done. You picked the wrong woman to mess with." With that, I spun on my heel and walked out, my head held high. The battle was just beginning, but I was ready. In the courtroom, my heart thumped loudly as Jalen presented our case to the judge. Dallas sat across the room, his expression arrogant and dismissive, while Blakely was conspicuously absent. "Your Honor," Jalen began, his voice imbued with conviction, "we have irrefutable evidence that Mr. Thompson has engaged in extramarital affairs and has misused marital assets to fund his infidelity. Furthermore, we have proof of his attempts to manipulate his children and turn them against their mother." The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, nodded gravely. "I have reviewed the evidence, Mr. Stevens, and I must say, it is quite compelling." Dallas's lawyer, a slick man in a costly suit, stood up. Your Honor, this so-called evidence is nothing more than hearsay and speculation. My client is a devoted husband and father who has been unfairly maligned by his vindictive ex-wife. A surge of anger washed over me at his words. How dare he paint me as the villain? But Jalen was prepared. With all due respect, Your Honor, the evidence speaks for itself, Jalen countered firmly. We have bank statements, credit card receipts, and photographic proof of Mr. Thompson's infidelity and financial misconduct. This is not hearsay or speculation. It is fact. The judge's gaze hardened as she turned to Dallas. Mr. Thompson, do you have anything to say in your defense? Dallas stood, his face contorted with feigned indignation. Your Honor, I have been nothing but a loving and devoted husband and father. My wife's accusations are baseless and cruel. She is simply trying to punish me for finding happiness with another woman. The blatant dishonesty was too much for me, and I struggled to maintain composure, knowing the truth was on my side. I let out a bitter laugh. Is that what you call it, Dallas? Happiness? Betraying your family and stealing from our children's future to finance your sordid affair? The judge pounded her gavel, her expression stern. Order in the court. Mr. Thompson, I have heard enough. The evidence presented against you is overwhelming. I am granting Mrs. Thompson's petition for divorce and awarding her a substantial portion of your shared assets as compensation for your infidelity and financial misconduct. Dallas's face drained of color, shock etching his features. Your Honor, you can't do this. I'll be ruined. The judge met his plea with a steely glare. You should have considered that before you decided to betray your family. Mr. Thompson, actions have consequences. A wave of vindication washed over me as the judge announced her decision. After months of pain and betrayal, justice had prevailed. Dallas would face the repercussions of his actions. As we exited the courtroom, Jalen, my attorney, pulled me aside with a gentle smile. Congratulations, Sienna. You stood up for yourself and your children, and you won. I hugged him, tears of relief and gratitude streaming down my face. I couldn't have done it without you, Jalen. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Stepping out into the bright sunlight, I felt a profound sense of freedom. The nightmare was finally over. I was free from Dallas's lies and manipulation, ready to start anew on my own terms. Then I saw her Blakely, standing on the courthouse steps, her face etched with shock and disbelief. Dallas! She called out, her voice trembling. What happened? What's going on? I watched as Dallas walked past her, his head bowed in defeat. It's over, Blakely. We're done. I've lost everything. Her face crumbled, tears streaming down. But what about us? What about our future together? Dallas shook his head, bitterness lacing his voice. There is no future, Blakely. I'm broke, and I'm alone. You'd better find someone else to latch onto. As Blakely collapsed to the ground, sobbing, a part of me felt a twisted sense of satisfaction watching her suffer. She had contributed to the destruction of my family, and now she was facing her own consequences. But mostly, I felt exhaustion, tired of the lies, the betrayal, and the endless conflict. I was ready to move forward, to build a new life for myself and my daughters. I walked away from the courthouse, my head held high, the battle finally over, and I had emerged victorious. Dallas and Blakely had undone themselves, and I was liberated, free to seek happiness anew. A year had passed since the divorce, and I was in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes and remnants of my past life. I had a new home, a thriving business, and a newfound peace. However, there was still one unresolved matter, Amaya and Ruth. They had been distant, grappling with their father's betrayal and their own feelings of guilt. I knew they needed time and space, which I had given them, but it was time to reconnect. I was ready to mend our relationship, to help them understand and heal. After all, I was not just a survivor and a fighter, I was their mother, and nothing would ever change that. They needed time to heal and find their own path, and I had given them that. But now, as they prepared to head off to college, I knew it was time to reach out and reconnect fully. With a mix of anticipation and anxiety, I picked up the phone and dialed Ruth's number. She answered on the third ring, her voice carrying a hint of hesitation. "Mom, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, sweetheart. I just wanted to talk to you and your sister." "Can you come over?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. There was a lengthy pause, and for a moment I feared she might decline. But then, softly, she agreed. "Okay, we'll be there in an hour." I busied myself with straightening up the apartment, trying to quell the butterflies in my stomach. When the doorbell rang, my heart skipped a beat. I opened the door to find Amaya and Ruth standing there, their expressions filled with caution and uncertainty. "Come in, girls," I said, stepping aside to let them enter. We sat in the living room, enveloped by an awkward silence until Amaya broke it, her voice trembling. "Mom, we're sorry for everything." Tears welled up in my eyes. "I know, baby. I'm sorry too. I should have been more present, should have shielded you better from your father's deception." Ruth shook her head, sadness in her eyes. "It's not your fault, Mom. We were the ones who believed him, who turned against you. We were so foolish." I reached out, taking their hands in mine. "You weren't foolish, Ruth. You were misled by someone who should have been your protector. That's on him, not you." Amaya's tears flowed freely. "But now we're paying the price. Dad's business with Blakely failed, and he's broke. He can't afford to pay for our college tuition." I squeezed her hand, my heart breaking for them. "I know, baby, but we'll figure it out together. I've been saving for your education and we'll find scholarships, grants, whatever it takes. You're not alone in this." Ruth looked up, hope dawning in her eyes. "Really? You'd do that for us after everything we put you through?" I smiled, drawing them both into a tight hug. "Of course I would. You're my daughters and I love you more than anything in this world. No matter what happens, I will always be here for you." We held each other for a long time, crying together, letting the pain and hurt from the past year wash over us. As we talked, planned, and dreamed about the future, a sense of peace settled over me. We had a long road ahead, but we would walk it together, my girls and I, united against the world. As they left that night, Amaya turned to me, her expression earnest. "Mom, I know we can't change the past, but we want to make things right. We want to be a part of your life again, if you'll have us." I smiled, pulling her into one last hug. "Of course I'll have you, baby. You are my family, and nothing will ever change that." Watching them drive away, I felt a renewed sense of hope and possibility that I hadn't known in years. The future was bright, and I was ready to face it head-on. Dallas and Blakely had tried to destroy me, but they had failed. I was stronger than they could have ever imagined, and I had the love and support of my daughters to prove it. I was Sienna Thompson, and I was unstoppable. Standing in the lobby of my new office building, a wave of pride and accomplishment swept over me. It had been 5 years since my tumultuous divorce, and since then, I had built a thriving interior design business that exceeded even my wildest dreams. My daughters, now grown and successful in their own careers, stood beside me, their faces glowing with pride. "Mom, this is amazing," Ruth said, her voice filled with awe. "You've come so far." I smiled, squeezing her hand. "We've all come so far, baby. I couldn't have done it without you and your sister." Amaya nodded, her eyes misty. "We're so proud of you, Mom. You're an inspiration to us both." As we walked through the sleek, modern space of my new office, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought me here, the pain, the betrayal, the endless nights of tears and doubt. But through it all, I had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever to build a life of my own. And I had succeeded beyond my wildest dreams.